afternoon, and welcome back to the SHEDcast.
SHEDcast, yes.
Hey, good afternoon. We got Brian, we got Graham. Graham, you're up in near Whitby, aren't you? Staithes, is it?
Yes. Well, no. I live in Slights, which is just outside Whitby, but Staithes is one of our sheds. So
Gotcha.
it's along that coast that we operate.
Splendid. And Brian, you're in Bedlington, Northumberland. Is that correct? Hello, Brian.
Well, the shed is actually near Ashington. Hello?
Ah, okay.
Can you hear?
Yes, I can. Yes, I thought we'd lost you for a second there.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Okay. Yeah, the shed is actually it's in near Ashington, and I live about 7 miles south of there. So, yeah.
Gotcha. Well, welcome to sunny Guernsey. I don't know what it is outside. It's probably
It's sunny Whitby.
Wonderful. We're all sat indoors.
Fantastic day. Yeah. It's probably raining up in Northumberland.
Yeah, actually, it's not. It's a clear blue sky. It's a beautiful day.
Lovely. Well, I'm very pleased for that. Okay, we're getting some comments coming in straight away on Facebook. Stephen says, looking forward to a great show. Excellent. Me too. I am very excited about this. Meeting great guys. And there's one more person to introduce to you later on when we do our Guernsey calling segment, which is going to be good fun. So, Stephen, great to see you. And I've got another little banner to shove in here. One that says Facebook users. For any Facebook viewers, before you comment, and then you can interact with us, which is very cool. Please go to the link above or below, I'm not sure, depending on how Facebook arranges things. There's a link there that says streamyard.com/Facebook. And that allows you to, we're asking you to allow StreamYard, which is this software, to see your username and profile picture. And then when you comment, as Stephen did, ta-da, then we get to see who you are and we can talk to you. Otherwise, it just comes in as anonymous Facebook user, which is a bit dull. So thank you, Stephen, for sorting that out for us. Very cool. I'm trying to think if there's anything else we need to get through in terms of housekeeping. This is a bit of housekeeping. Not housekeeping. I've got a question for you all. Question is, what are you hankering to get back to the shed for? Everyone's itching to get their sheds open again. My question to you in YouTube land and Facebook land, where we're broadcasting, send us a comment, Facebook or YouTube, doesn't matter, just add a comment and we get to see it live. It's all very clever. And tell us what it is you're hankering to get back for. Let's start here. Can I ask Graham, what are you hankering to get back to the shed for?
The companionship. The guys, and there are some women as well, let me disappoint you, but really missing the banter, to be honest, the rudeness. I can do without the woodwork just to be with people. That's the fun side of sheds for me.
Gotcha. Good stuff. Brian, what's the thing that's grating at you?
Yeah, I'm similar. I mean, the shed is a great place to meet up. We meet up twice a week for a couple of hours or so. We have a cup of tea and a biscuit, or we've got one guy who makes really good cakes, and that's something to look forward to. Again, the banter and the chit chat, and but I like to make things. I like to keep busy, and so and I need to think of a few more projects actually before we start again. So,
well, hopefully we can inspire you today.
Exactly.
That's what I'm looking for. Could I just add that in this lockdown period where I can contact other shedders, but I can't really see them, it's been fantastic to ring around sheds up in the north, way beyond Whitby, just to discover how they're getting on, which is how I discovered the shed that Brian is chairman of. I spoke to the secretary there. And you yesterday, Marcel, it was only yesterday I realised that I'd ever heard of you. And I think there are great opportunities, even in lockdown, to actually discover new people. We've got time to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's one of the things people have asked, what's the Shedcast about? And in fact, I've got a piece of paper on the kitchen worktop over there. At lunchtime today, I had a phone call from, you can tell the number, 01534. At that point, instantly, my heckles go up because it's a Jersey number. But it was the BBC down in Jersey. And it's the television side of Channel Islands, BBC, and they're saying, "Oh, can we do something? Can you send us a video clip of something you're doing, shed-wise?" And I said, "Well, we're doing a Shedcast." "Yes, we've heard about that." So I've got to put that together in the next 24 hours. And then about 10 minutes after that, I had the Guernsey BBC radio phoning up saying, "Could we interview you on Saturday and talk about the Shedcast?" Since we've been doing this Shedcast, this is week 10 now, Shedcast number 10. I've just been fascinated by hooking up with people such as yourselves, and sort of spreading of, casting our eyes away from little old renovation in Guernsey to what everyone else is doing, both in terms of the projects, the buildings, the people, the creativity. I'm loving it. So I hope you get out of that something, and I hope our viewers get something out of it. I had a message this morning from Ronnie on Facebook, who said that he's missed only the first Shedcast, so he's been with us through all 9, and I'm guessing he's watching right now. So hi Ronnie, thanks for reaching out to us, and good to have you with us. Not sure where you're from, do tell us in the comments. Send us a comment while you're watching. So no comments coming in just as yet, so let's go. Let's do us 3-way like this. Let me do a bit of administration in the background, and I'll hide some of those bits and bobs. And let's go on a journey. I meant to do the what's coming up. So there we go. Here's our what's coming up, our running order for today. We're going to be talking to Graham about the Whitby Area Sheds. I've seen it on your website as WAS, or how do you pronounce that? Or WAS, or
we because we don't have to just say Whitby Area Sheds. In fact, I'll often use Whitby District Sheds because Stade says it's in Whitby area, but it's a bit separate. So sometimes we use Whitby District as well. So it's a name for all purposes. Each shed, we've got 4, has got its own name.
Fair enough. Okay, cool. After that, we'll be talking to Brian about Earth Balance Shed. You've corrected me. It's not Bedlington, is it? It's Ash, is it?
Well, it's actually Bedlington's okay. It's called Bulmersund. It's a sub district of Ashington.
Okay.
But
okay. Okay. Near enough. You'll let me off, will you?
Yeah. That's fine.
Thank goodness for that. And then we shall PKO. We'll put the kettle on after maybe, 40 minutes or so, because you know what it's like when you've got a bunch of guys sat around together, chit-chat, but after about 30, 40 minutes, someone needs to put the kettle on and someone needs to go for a wee, or don't we all? So we'll take a 5-minute break at that point. And then, rather excitingly, we've got a pre-recorded interview with Les from Australia. He's in Victoria, Gold Coast. Not too far from, I think, Melbourne. We'll have a look on the map in a minute.
You're way out, man.
No, it's not near Melbourne, is it? Where is it? Oh.
No, it's out on the East Coast. It's the Gold Coast.
Gold Coast, yeah, okay.
Yeah. And it's Len, by the way, but we'll excuse you.
Oh, no, I got that completely wrong.
Well, yeah, but that's real life. This is.
Yeah. As I keep saying to people, yeah, not quite.
He's a big guy, as you know.
Yeah, but he's more than arm's length away, so it's all right.
Yes, that's true.
As long as he's still social distancing, 9,000 miles should probably cover it. But let's have a look. Let's see this one. This map here. This will tell us, Brian. In fact, I'm gonna bump Graham out just for a second, and then we'll bump Brian, and then we'll put Graham, and then we'll there. So then I got Brian on that side.
Very impressive. This very impressive.
So this is where you're at. Okay, near Blythe. Not
Right,
named after
then you can see
Captain Blythe.
Bedlington.
Okay.
So it's halfway between Bedlington and Ashington, sort of.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
And well, the first question has to be, why is it called Earth Balance Shed? That sounds like it's something like you've built an Earth ship, one of these car tire wraps, soil rammed things. What sort of shed have you got there?
We just got a smallish building. It's actually the switch gear room. The Earth Balance. It was a project which started about 20 or 25 years ago.
Okay.
And it was supposed to be to look at sustainable living. So things that you could do to sort of an eco-friendly site. There was a windmill erected to generate electricity, and of course the power cables come through our shed. So we've got big electrical cables and lots of meters and things. Yeah, that's the outside view of the shed. Not particularly very attractive. It could do with a coat of paint, I think.
Incognito.
And it's got a sort of a green roof as well. Which you can't really see. One of the projects Rob made was the bird table in the front there.
Let's have a zoom
in on you can just about see a picnic table which I made from pallets. And also, just peeking around the corner is a lean-to that we made, which is now a wood store. Around the back there, that's a greyish sort of thing. That's a lean-to.
Gotcha.
And that's full of wood now, so that keeps us going for a little while.
And there's your green roof. I can, now that I'm zoomed in,
just about, yeah.
I thought perhaps you just needed to clean your gutters out.
No. But if you swing round 100, that's me on a pillar drill. I'm just making a little sign for my one of my grandchildren. The view from outside, that's 180 degrees around. There's a nice fishing lake just outside of us, which is stocked with fish. Although I think it's closed down at the moment, but it's a nice place, and there's a nice walk around it as well.
One of our shedders, Derek, he is an avid fisher, and I was talking to him yesterday or the day before, I think, about coming on the show. He said, "Oh no, sorry, I'm out with a mate. We're going fishing." So he's not with us right now. I mean, what a wally, eh? I won't tell him about this. That will be his punishment for not being here. Otherwise, he'd be all over that.
So just to the north of this lake, as well as a new hospital, it's a plasma cancer treatment hospital, which has recently been built. So the whole site is probably going to be redeveloped at some point, but we don't know when. And there's talk about having a hotel and then more buildings around. So we might actually be moving from the building that we're in. But on the whole site is called Earth Balance, and there are other buildings on there. Currently there's an autistic center, and we do work for them. We've built shelves and fixed doors and things. And then there's a room which people do sewing and fabric work, and then there's also a horticultural training unit, which takes disabled people or underprivileged people and trains them up in horticulture.
Excellent.
So it's a nice site, yeah. And this is some of the motley crew. I'm in the middle at the back, and in the front is on the right is Mark. He's one of the founder members, and his sister Catherine on the left. The sign at the back is one of my efforts.
Lovely.
And it has the website address on there if anybody wants to look.
Excellent. In fact, I can do one better than that. Brace
Thought you
yourself.
could.
Yeah. Da, 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 da. There you go.
There we go. Yeah, indeed. So there's lots of pictures on there of things we're doing. It's not as good as Graham's website though. Oh, that was really impressive. This is one of the views inside, some of the tools. The shed started about 6 years ago. I've been a member for about 4 years, and there was a grant, I think, from Northumberland County Council initially. So some of the tools were bought with that money, but a lot have been donated as well. And we've done a couple of house clearances. So yeah, generally we've got a good range of tools. We do mostly woodwork. We're hoping to do a little bit of electronic work possibly in the future. And
Nice.
yeah, this is one of the projects. This is a sort of a hole in a tree, and it was either Rob or Mark who made this. This was before my time, but it's a nice little feature.
That's really cute. We had some on the show last week where someone has been taking quite large logs and then putting little fairy doors and windows and stuff, and little fairy steps up to the door and stuff like that.
Oh yes, very good.
So sweet. It's something that I've had on my radar for a long time, about making these sort of little fairy doors that you put in your skirting board or something like that.
Right.
Or out and about, which is even lovelier. Yeah, I like that. That's really classy.
Actually, where I'm sitting at the moment, right opposite on the other side of the road, on the edge of somebody's garden, there's a tree just like that. That's dead. Most of it's been cut down, but that's given me an idea.
Oh, well, good. I'm pleased about that.
Right. Yeah. I think the top tip for that would be to do some CAD beforehand. You know what I mean by CAD?
Yeah.
Cardboard aided design.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
and then you can just hack and chop and and stick bits on. That's another handy thing, is sticking bits of cardboard together to make the shape. And then you've got yourself a template. That's my CAD. Cool.
Excellent.
Now, you mentioned before that you got someone who is into making boxes.
Yeah, he's very keen on boxes.
Nice.
We made quite a few. Likes doing the joints and different types of wood for the top there. And this is a jewelry box he's made.
Yeah, really lovely. And I can see on there that he's got wooden hinges, which is rather nice.
Made the hinges, yes, indeed. Yeah.
Classy. Very sweet.
This is something I haven't seen. It's one of our recent members has made this while we've been shut down. But it's very nice. Yeah.
Very nice indeed. Yeah. Top job. A little bit out of focus, but I think we get the gist. Nice.
This is a phone stand, and a watch as well.
That's so simple. That's the sort of thing that anybody could come to the shed first time saying, what can I make? Well,
exactly.
Most people have got a watch, and most people have got a phone. There you go. And you could do adaptations, personalize it. There's all sorts of things. I like that as a project. That's really neat.
Yeah. We've got one guy as well who suffers a little bit from dementia, and we've been making like a knot puzzle thing. So he's in the process of doing that at the moment, but that's just one idea of one of the projects you could do. Great
idea. Yeah, there's lots of that sort of thing. And this is something a bit different for sheds. We often think about sheds as being the heavy stuff. But certainly in the Guernsey shed, as we're developing, we're going to have a noisy, dirty shed and a clean and quiet shed where art can be done, be it, watercolor or embroidery or knitting or sewing, all sorts of things. That's rather beautiful.
Yeah, this again is one of our recent members. I've not actually seen this. These pictures have been put on the website by our secretary. So but it looks like Japanese influence, and her partner has also made, which I think you got a picture of, the Japanese bird feeder. Yeah.
Yeah, that's rather neat, that, isn't it?
So,
I'd like to see. I take it the twigs are just for, they don't go through. No, when I first looked at the picture, I thought they went through the bottom, but it looks like they're just perches.
Side, yeah, I think so. Yeah, yeah.
Splendid.
I don't know what the symbols mean. Anybody know Japanese?
I think, from my Japanese, I think it's a recipe actually for squirrel stew.
As long as it's not pigeon pie.
Oh. Talking of pigeon pie.
Pigeon pie. Well, this is one of my efforts because I also go to 2 community allotments, not on the Earth Balance site. This is separate. And this was supposed to be a scarecrow, but to ward the pigeons off. But I think they like it so much they perch on the top. So I'm not sure it's been too successful. But it does swivel around. So it's a kind of blows around with the wind as well a little bit. So we have a little bit of movement on it.
Very cool. Next thing to do is to wire it up to the mains, and that will that'll finish it off.
Yeah, to put
then you get ready
to it as well. An eagle call sound. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good idea. I caught this on your website. This is a rather fine-looking bench that's properly sturdy.
Yeah, this is again before my time. This was one of the first projects that the guys did, and it's coming very, very useful. And it's now full of things. It's got trays and of nuts and bolts in it, and vices on it as well, of course. But it's very useful. Yeah.
Excellent. There's nothing like a good solid bench.
And
this rather fine item.
The project is Rob actually made this, and I think it was for one of his relatives, and then he got somebody else wanted to answer this. I think this is the second version.
Really nice.
It's a bit of a plan. Yeah.
I like that he's taken the trouble, the time, not to just shortcut it, like on the wheel there. It's been made up. It's not just been cut out of a sheet of plywood, the sort of thing I'd do. He's done a proper job.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, excellent. Is it going to be used as a wheelbarrow, or is it going to be a planter type thing?
I believe it's for a planter, but the wheel does turn, so
mobile planter.
It could be multi-purpose, maybe.
Yeah. Excellent. Cool. Nice. I think that's the last picture we've got. Very cool. Thanks, Brian, for sharing that with us. What's your vision for getting the guys back to the shed? You said you might be moving. That's a potential. Where do you see things going?
I'm not sure exactly when we're going to get back together again, because our shed is quite small. If you've got 6 people in it, then it's quite full. We've got, as well as that bench that you saw, we have a couple of other benches, and so you almost need a one-way system to walk around there.
That's what you have to do.
Yeah, the COVID-19 thing now coming out, and the distancing thing is tricky. We're talking about it in Guernsey about how we can start, opening up things a little bit. Maybe 1 or 2 people in each. We've got sort of 2 adjoined greenhouse packing sheds. Can we have 1 or 2 in each shed? And we've got to try and balance the safety aspects of disease, infection control, that sort of thing, but with also balancing the safety requirements of, if there's someone using a power tool next door, you probably won't hear them from through the wall.
Right.
So do we say yes but no power tools, or we're juggling that at the moment.
Yeah.
And the last count, our chairman Mark has said that he's spoken to the authorities for it. We don't fall within a regular use case, so we've got to submit a document at present to say this is how we want to use the shed, this is the space available, these are the precautions we're going to take, which might mean mandatory basic masks for everyone, which seems like a good precaution, and limited numbers and sterilise things, what you touch and that sort of thing. So we're just starting to work on that at the moment.
So each shed then will have to submit this document then, will it?
I don't know about your locality. This is just something we're having to do in Guernsey. Talk to the health department, but I'm guessing there may be a similar body for you that otherwise you'll have the police knocking on your door saying, no, you can't do this, and enforcing things. So
I guess we need to seek some advice from the council possibly then. Or
it's probably a good idea. Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah, because I think businesses have got guidelines about how they can start opening up, and building sites and garden centres are open over here now. But I think they've got guidelines about how many people they can have in and that sort of thing. But we don't necessarily, as I say, fall within a standard use case. But we've got quite a lot of guys who are itching to get back to business. But the balance, as well, as one of our guys was discussing the other day, that if you have, say, 2 guys in the shed, yes, you can get on with doing something, but what you're missing out on is all of the big social gathering, and the banter. There's 2 of you, and you can talk, and that's good. That's a bit of face to face is lovely, but it's not the same as having a crowd of people together.
Right.
But I think it's going to be a case of bit by bit, slowly.
Yeah.
Sort of baby steps rather than going silly. But I've got to say, just before we came on air this afternoon, I heard a message from the BBC on the Guernsey side. We've now got, I think, 2 active cases of COVID-19 coronavirus. 6 people awaiting results. But apart from that, we are clear. And there's been no new cases in the last 20 days. So we are really fortunate. It seems to be, I'm going to touch wood, under control. But that's quite a blessing. As I think we're very close to sort of fully opening up everything again.
Right.
But I think our borders are still going to be quite tightly controlled.
Yes.
That's the next big problem. We've got greetings coming in from Dan. Dan down in the south of England. Greetings to Whitby, Bulmerson and Guernsey. And Bomersund.
Yes. It's a strange name.
Yes, as I say, I've been up as far as Scarborough before. But looking at the map, as I was yesterday and today, you guys are filled with fantastic names. Where'd you get them from?
Not really sure.
For Whitby, it's actually Viking.
Okay.
A lot of the names are Viking. Whitby itself is derives from the Viking. So we're pretty fierce. I think you'd fit in there, Marcel, with some sort of hat and horns.
Yeah, I've got to get some horns.
Play the part.
Yeah, I might need to dye it red. Is that normal?
It might be normal for you, but.
And Dan also says #EarthShed. Lovely stuff. A whole new take on the tree house. Yes, the door in the tree.
Yeah,
I love it. I wonder, do you know? Is there anything inside there? Is there like a broom for sweeping up leaves on that deck?
There might be. I haven't opened the door. Maybe, somebody pops out. I don't know.
Skeleton.
Oh, dear.
Lovely. Thanks, Dan, for chipping in. Nice to have you with us. Very cool. And Brian, thank you for at very last minute coming and sharing, because it's really cool to hear something different. Not every shed has this great palace of a mansion. It's great to see small sheds, small groups. As we hear from Len later on, shedding starts with two blokes, or not even blokes, but two people. So yeah, it's really cool to know what you're up to. It's good.
Yeah. Always looking for new members, of course, and we're trying to build it up a little bit. People come and go, but we've got regulars, five or six regulars that come. Yeah.
What's your population in the nearby area?
Northumberland is, I should know this, about 600,000, I think.
Okay.
But it's a big county.
Yeah.
Yeah. I live in a town called Cromlington, which is about 30,000. It was one of these new towns in the 60s.
Right.
And Bedlington itself is a little bit smaller. It's the next town to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I mean Guernsey's 60-something thousand. So yeah, you're not far from what we've got here. But of course, the big difference for us is that nobody can drive in, even 10 miles away. We will be a fisherman passing in his boat. There's nobody 10 miles away,
Right.
Well, the time I've spent in the UK, that's what struck me, is that you might not have this in your town, but 10 miles, 20 miles up the road, there is that something, whether it's a business or a facility or something like that, or a shop.
Right.
So you're isolated too. We're that little bit more isolated. But that's interesting. Yes, similar sizes.
Well, if I chip in here from a Whitby perspective, we got, I don't know what it is. The district has probably got 30,000, 40,000, something like that. Depends what you call. That's not Whitby itself, but the environs. But we were very concerned. Whitby was very concerned. In fact, all Scarborough that you visited was very concerned, and of course over in the Lake District, that opening it up for people to drive as far as they like in a day would see Whitby, which is only small, narrow streets, just full of people. It didn't quite happen, but that was the concern. So we had to put out the contra message to the government, which was basically, lovely to see you, but can you turn around, please?
Yeah, it's tricky, isn't it? But you were saying yesterday, Graham, that there's no coronavirus around Whitby at the moment. You are clean.
It's very hard to get this level of detail. It's just not published.
Oh, really?
But I think in our area, well, it doesn't come in my direction anyway, but it's where I live, the answer's, I think, no.
Okay.
It's not, it's Middlesbrough as you go up further. Yes, quite a bit. So in other words, in the cities, but we're really quite rural.
Yeah.
And of course, Whitby itself, I often call it the Isle of Wight, because it's surrounded. It's not surrounded by water. It could be Guernsey, Isle of Guernsey. But we're surrounded by moorland on three sides, and the other side's the sea. So there is, it's fairly easy to see who's coming in and who's going out.
And do you all take it in terms to man the roadblock?
Well, one of us holds the gun. Yeah.
The Whitby militia.
Yes. Yeah.
Changing the subject slightly. I meant to do this earlier, but what are you drinking, and what are you drinking from today, fellas? This is a nice change of gear. I'm on Liberation. This mug from the 2015 Guernsey Liberation celebration. So Guernsey celebrates its Liberation Day from occupying Nazi forces on the 9th of May every year. And thanks, JP. Adding titles there. And it's not very clear, but there's a wartime photograph, a couple of kids presumably looking to go on the ship to be evacuated at the outbreak of war 1940. So that's what I'm drinking from. May is a very special month for us, particularly around the nights, but I'm sticking with it for the month. What are you drinking there, Graham?
Tea. There's about an inch in there that's cold now, but I believe it's a Denby mug, but I daren't turn it upside down to see because I'd wet myself.
Again,
yeah.
What are you drinking, Brian?
Well, I didn't know we had a mug. It was a mug thing at show, so I've just got a plain beaker, I'm afraid, with some juice in it. But
no apologies required.
There you go.
Very nice. And I forgot to mention what I'm drinking. I don't know if this is the thing beyond my family, but I'm drinking Swilk, which it's like making a white coffee or a white tea, but without the tea or the coffee. So it's just hot water and milk.
All right.
But it's like simple decaffeinated option, and I do like milk, so shoot me down. But this one, it's slightly different because I'm going for ginger Swilk. I've taken a knob of ginger, root ginger, chop, chuck it in, and that with the boiling water on it. Oh, of an evening. Oh, I tell you.
This is educational, isn't it, Brian? We're learning.
It is, right? Very good.
Yeah, it's got a nice tang. And for everyone that's a regular, Ronnie included, I'm still working my way through my packet of rich tea. So I've still got a little ways to go. And just in case I need it as a backup, I've got some Bourneville dark chocolate. In this case, rum and raisin.
Oh, yeah.
That got his attention. Splendid. Now, let's come to Graham. But I'm gonna kick you out for a second so I can just swap sides. Let's see if I can do that. If I bump you out and then I bump you back in. Oh, you're over there now. All change, and that gives me license to run another video, which I think is this one. And just a quick shout out to our viewers. The question for this week is, what are you hankering to get back to the shed for? What are you hankering to get back to the shed for? Is there a something, maybe a tool or materials or a person or the people in general or the bacon butties, or as Brian mentioned earlier, the cakes?
The cakes, oh yes, don't forget the cakes.
Yeah, we need to work on that in Guernsey Shed. Cakes. Right, so let's jump on the map.
I'll have to send you some pictures of the cakes. They're absolutely beautiful.
Oh, I'm not sure if I'll accept that. Might be enough.
Just pictures, not cakes.
Well, you never know.
Oh. Right, here we go. Here is this is Graham's neck of the woods. Again, we're just down the road from Brian. Probably what, 40 or 50 miles?
No, more than that, I would have thought.
Okay.
That's
I don't
60, I think, is it?
60, yeah, I'd say probably 60. Yeah.
Now, Graham, you're quite greedy because you've got a whole pile of sheds. 5.
Yes, you've lined it up beautifully there. You've been practicing. Yes.
And here's some of these funky names. Robin Hood's Bay. Now, I thought Robin Hood was way down in the south of England. What's he doing up there?
Don't know.
Actual boat.
He's probably doing what most other people are doing, trying to rook the tourists or something. Now, Robin, I don't know why it's called Robin Hood's Bay, but funnily enough, I'd heard of Robin Hood's Bay because when I was a young lad, my brother, who's about 4 years older than me, actually went there on what they used to call school journeys. Ooh. And he went to Robin Hood's Bay and stayed for, let's say, a week in a youth hostel. So and of course, Robin Hood riding through the glen. I've never forgot the name.
Yeah, of course.
But
And so the map's popped off now, and I could pull it back, but I have to do the whole Zoom thing again. But you've got a whole raft of other odd names, like Slights, is it?
no, Slights is where I live.
So where's that come from? Is that another sort of Nordic kind of?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Yeah. We started our first shed. We had to try and get money and what have you. But the area is Slights. That's the main village, if you like, with a couple of thousand people in. But there was no real shed premises here. But we were able to use the back of a Methodist chapel in the little place called Littlebeck.
Lovely.
Now, I do know why it's called Littlebeck. It's because there's a little beck and it flows through the place. The other claim to fame for it is it's on the coast to coast. So is Robin Hood's Bay. That's the end of the coast to coast. Yeah. We get, in a normal year, not this year, many, many walkers and many, many Australians.
What?
And many, well, they come over to do the coast to coast walk.
Do we let them back?
Yeah. We take their money first. And then, well, actually, the shed sometimes does quite well because we welcome them in. And some of them get quite captivated. I mean, the Australians know all about sheds, as you will find out later.
Don't they just? Yeah.
But the Americans don't get it. So I tend to say to any of them, if it's a mixed party, as you go along with the Americans, tell the Australians what all this is about. Nothing like insulting Americans and Australians and any other nationality.
Splendid.
So we've got Littlebeck was really our starter. We had no thought of doing any other shed. It was the first shed in North Yorkshire.
Okay.
So we were blessed by some finance from North Yorkshire County Council, and they had never heard of sheds, but there was a person, it's usually people, not organisations, but a person liked the idea, and she blessed it. And although we don't get money from there now, she's helped on other projects, and we had very good relationships, because we probably, as an extension of all these sheds, we try to help build community. I mean, that's the thing that I'm interested in. Sheds is one thing, but having other interests relating to other voluntary groups where we might get people from or we might pass people to, it is very important to me. We need to be building community. So Littlebeck was the first one. We then had, I don't like to raise this subject, but we did have a couple of women come to our shed. One was a German lady that was staying with us for 5 months at the end. And she wanted to learn English, but it was pretty good, far better than my German. And she came down there. And to be honest, what we discovered was that she'd just retired, really, from a job which meant she was virtually traveling the world. And suddenly she was single. She's back in her hometown, sort of a small place. And what do I do with my life now? Now she's back well and truly on her feet, still now traveling the world. She's working in Pakistan, amongst other things, with orphanages and schools for kids. So it did her so much good, because all her work had been with women and children. Okay. But to come into a shed with us, we don't hold Germans captive, do we? We rub it in. And so she learned what it was not to talk about something. Don't mention but we used to, she also learned, I don't know whether you know, the little finger, you know. She's got us round her little finger. And we'd say, this is just like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. So this is the one thing with having sometimes women in the sheds. we do have sort of a separate women's shed as well, but we don't totally exclude people. But the one thing is they have to behave like men.
Okay.
It's a simple rule.
Standing
It doesn't work otherwise. And it does.
Do they have to pee standing up, Graham?
Pardon?
Do they have to pee standing up?
I'll have to ask. I'll have to ask my colleague Elaine, who's in one of the photos. I might ring her up later and let you know.
Okay.
No, we do have toilets and seats. You know,
right.
Unisex in that sense. I don't know what you do where you are, but
hay bale.
No, but actually, again, the secret of that, I do want to say, it's not that we go angling for women or angling for men specifically, but we like to find people that need a shed. And it's needing because they are, in one way or another, isolated. And Elaine has got a fantastic, I suppose it wasn't fantastic at the time, but a very interesting story behind her. She lives in Robin Hood's Bay, by the way.
Okay.
And, you know, just isolation there for various reasons, except when she was walking dogs and she was looking forward to a shed. She'd seen it, the men's sheds advertised. And when she heard there was a women's one in Whitby, this is why we started Whitby Shed, was a women's shed. We managed to get a scout hall there, and she came to that shed.
Right.
And she just grew and grew and grew. And you'll see her later in some of the pictures, and you'll see how it was. She didn't eat too much. She just developed rather than grew.
Wasn't the case.
Then we did men's shed in Whitby. It's at a scout hall on their stage, boarded off. And so we made relationships with the scouts, and we do quite a bit with them, knowing the leaders and things like that. I'm on their executive these days. Never been a scout. And then the next shed was Staithes, further up the coast. That had its interest starting. It wasn't an easy shed to start. And that has been in its own way, very successful. All small sheds, by the way, just like Brian's shed. That's what attracted me to the shed there at Earth. What is it? Where on earth are you? Earth Balance. It attracted me when Rob told me about, this tiddly little place. I said, but that's what our sheds are. They are all small places. And the last one was Robin Hood's Bay, which we started in another scout hut. It's getting premises, but everyone's different. But the atmosphere in each shed is pretty much the same.
Okay.
I mean, it's good.
Excellent. So, should we look at some pictures as we go?
You can look at some pictures.
Well, this is stick this in as well. Sheds.co.uk for anyone who wants to learn a bit more. There's lots of information on the Whitby Sheds website. So My
advice is to stick to basically the main home page, because there's loads and loads of blogs on there if you just roll down the front page. Other parts of it have got some more historic stuff, but I managed to keep the blogs going, so it's interesting for people, I hope. What's this picture of?
Saw this picture, I thought, if I zoom in, you can see it's got the garden club over the door, and I figured that can't be you. You must be over here in Staithes HS something shed. But I'm wrong, aren't I?
Well, it was actually, you're wrong. What the HS is, and I'm trying to think what HS might be. Basically, it was used by a pigeon club to store all the, all the carrying cages and things like that. So it had been used, but that was defunct. And so we helped develop that for them in the end. They wanted, the garden club wanted to move in there. So we renovated that. That was a very interesting job. So recently, just as we were going into lockdown, really, we inherited the whole of the block building.
Okay.
So that's going to be a very nice premises. But we've also built an extension on the back, because there's one particular shedder, and I'll name him and shame him, Tom. Tom is insatiable in collecting wood. He can't not collect wood. Now, we like wood, but not in the quantities that he brings it. But we're going to put him in there so he can make noise and dust and things like that. And we'll put a lock on the door. But actually, that's been a very interesting project. To be honest, a couple of us have been there just to put the roof covering on, putting the felting on, because it was dry when lockdown came. Right. And it's been dry ever since, basically, but we were worried. So we have sort of finished the external, and there's a lot of interesting stuff to do afterwards. So that's stays, yeah.
Sure.
The she shed, oh dear, yes. Well, that's what we called it, actually. We started giving it a nice name, like she shed, women's shed. And this was
on the she
shed.
Yeah.
She shed, yes. On some seashore.
Yeah, okay.
I must put my teeth in.
So this is
first Christmas. So I'm trying to think when they started. I think they started in, I think it was sort of September time, about 3 years ago. And so this would have been the first Christmas, and we must have had a celebration. Too long ago to remember, but I remember making the cakes. But we also had cakes for an occasion we did where we had cakes for men's shed, women's shed that somebody made as well. So we had 1 or 2 celebrations.
Hey.
Brilliant. Being diabetic. This is shed. The shed bit is actually the steps. The steps there are wooden frames.
Gotcha.
And these were made for an allotment, not one we run, but one that a very close friend was involved in, and she helped us start sheds. She was like a community worker, so she was helping us start. She took an interest in the sheds, and when she was starting this allotment, which is like a cliff, basically, we decided we'd make these wooden boxes and stack them up so she had steps.
Nice.
And that's our Charlotte, who is now our local link worker with the NHS GP practices. So, we've got influential people in amongst us. Okay,
that's interesting. Is that something, I know that over here they're talking about doing social prescribing.
Yes. That's much it. I mean, her role has changed. She's actually working from home now because of COVID, and actually ringing up elderly people. She's got about, 30 or 40. I'm sure she does other things, but that's one of the roles she's got. But the original idea was to act as, we've got 5 GP practices, I think it's 5, in the area, Robin Hood's Bay, Staithes and so forth. They're all independent, but they work as an alliance. Heartbeat, remember Heartbeat on the telly? Heartbeat Alliance, or Heartbeat area up here. So she she got that job, which I thought was brilliant, because she's very equipped for that sort of thing. Never done anything like it. Now they've recruited 2 others like her. So she's proven that assistance to the GPs at that level is worthwhile.
Great.
We're very proud of her, actually.
Something, rightly so. The whole social prescribing thing is something that is up and coming, but there's a lot of unknown about it, because it's been around for a little while, but it's quite unknown. It's kind of new. And I think maybe you say it's Charlotte.
Yeah.
I think maybe we could hook up with her and maybe someone from this end as well.
Funny enough, somebody said this to me when I was looking around for people before I picked on Brian. Somebody said to me, "What about Charlotte?" But not knowing, such short notice for today.
Yeah.
But I'd like to think she would. To the bosses, of course. But if she's at home at the moment, I'd like to think she could.
That would be
I'm putting all these good words in for her and the GPs up here, so we need payback.
Grease in the wheel.
All this is unscripted.
Can't tell. You can't tell. Yeah. Okay. So Charlotte, if you're watching at any point,
well, she won't be watching, but I'll tell her.
Oh, well,
she will watch.
But yeah, that would be very interesting because I think it's something that sheds up and down the country and beyond could do with getting a grasp of to see how that can apply to them, and yeah, well worth looking at. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
Same site.
No. I know what this is. This is Robin Hood's Bay. It's the back of their shed. It's like a prefabricated, concrete sectional thing.
Okay.
It's been wonderfully lined. It's a very comfortable inside. It's fantastic. But this is a ramp that goes from the back door, like a wheelchair ramp. So the scouts would have had disabled access. But you can see it wasn't very often used.
Yeah.
So I think they're picking moss or something. Sure. So it's not a garden, but it's
sounds like a job for a pressure washer.
Yeah, well, it's something to give somebody to do.
Yeah, excellent. Here's a couple of like.
Well, yeah, you got to watch the guy on the right. He'll be after your job, Marcel.
Well, maybe when he's older, he can have a proper beard like mine. What do you reckon?
Yeah, he's a wonderful guy. He's called Dick, and he's on the parish council, I think, and involved in quite a few things. But again, a great supporter of the sheds. He doesn't always get along because when you've got busy people, but you need these people that do come to the shed, but they're involved in other things as well.
Yeah.
The other miscreant is somebody that, again, has thoroughly enjoyed coming along, and I'm fighting to remember his name because I don't always go to Robin Hood's Bay. The sheds have grown away from me, thankfully, a bit.
Yeah.
So I don't go to them all.
We'll call him Noddy.
Yeah, but he's smiling at least.
Now, this is a bit of flexing, I think is what the young people say, but it's showing off your fancy bit.
Awards.
Yeah.
No, my fancy bit, she's not here.
I say.
Oh, that joke didn't go down very well, did it?
Yes.
Right,
Spotlight
this is
work to reduce loneliness and social isolation.
Yeah.
And new project of the year 2019.
Yeah.
Very nice. Now, was that for any particular shed or as a group?
In a sense, it was a group. This was probably 18 months ago, so we wouldn't have had Robin Hood's Bay going. But if you like, people get to know that we were trying to reach out. We wanted to establish small sheds because we couldn't do big ones, but in the outlying places so that people could easily get to the sheds without taking bus rides and car rides and things like that. And very difficult to park in some of the places. So we went for the distributed model of sheds, but not planned at the beginning. I said to you, as far as I was concerned, Littlebeck was Littlebeck. But when it was the women that caused us to think we could do with something for them.
Yeah.
And that's why we went to Whitby. And once you're there with some women, you might as well have men there. And the whole thing then began to mushroom out. There was funding for stays, which was reckoned to be an area that was an area of need. And so we applied and we got quite a very helpful sum and very good relationships with funders. My advice to any shed, by the way, and your shed, you probably do, I'm sure you do it, but any shed is your funders, don't just take the money and forget them. Take your funders with you. And so we always try to keep our funders informed, not formal reports. It can be just a page off the website and it says, hey, don't forget us because we've not forgotten you. So
yeah, that's good advice. Yeah. Here's a picture of nothing. That's really great.
Well, I know that's our ballroom. We do ballroom dancing as well. No, we don't. This is the Whitby shed, which is on the stage of the Scout Hall. So the doors, the big doors that close it off are to the right of the picture, but off there. And we decided that, well, they gave us permission to paint the floor with garage floor paint.
Great.
And it looked pretty good, didn't it? It's no longer in that pristine condition.
Excellent.
But again, just finding things to do. That was made by one of our shedders. Trying to think now. He may have been made at home. He could have been made at Littlebeck, but this was done because he wanted a fancy bird box in his garden, I think.
That's lovely.
And that's what he made. I mean, look at those columns.
Iconic.
Yeah, iconic. Oh, yes, iconic. Great for the seagulls, yeah. Yes, I'm fighting to remember what this is. Hold on. I am actually
good. Yeah.
Lost. Why am I lost? No, I do know that. Yeah. Well, what were we doing? This is two guys from the Whitby. This was two guys who were in the Whitby shed. They're not there now. One is a guy of about 80. Lovely guy. The left-hand one. That isn't the shed though. So we must have gone somewhere, or they must, to have picked up some useful items or something.
Gotcha.
You know, stealing something. Oh, this is Bob. This is my happy Bob. Bob was Bob had worked with me for about 3 or 4 years in Slights, where he lives as well, on different community projects for older people. And he and his wife have always done things for people in their vicinity. So his wife will cook meals for somebody and take it in. And that's on their heart. But they came back from, Bob was in retail in South Africa. So supermarkets. And he came back and, if you like, ended up here, not really knowing people, but they began to do things for people. And I met Bob at my gate about 6 months after we'd moved in 8 years ago. And we just got talking at my gate, and I realized he was somebody that had a heart for people. So when I started something with older people, I went and saw Bob. I said, do you remember me? And he joined in. Of course, he made walking sticks. So when we started the shed, he was one of the founders working with me. The plan was we were going to make walking sticks because he made hundreds of these in a little 8x6 shed, 8 foot by 6 foot shed. And we never did. There is another guy that makes them.
Okay.
Because it is small, and we got interested in other things. We had 1 or 2 people with dementia there, and so you're trying to cater for all tastes. Bob still carried on there, and a guy called Malcolm, who used to be involved with traction engines, so big stuff. And he's got a big railway set in his garden that he can put up. He's that sort of guy, really mechanical, but he took to doing these walking sticks. But his speciality is the handles, and I think you've got a shot of one of the handles coming up.
Don't know. We'll get to it in a second, I think.
We will get to it.
Yeah.
That's Elaine, and I will speak to Elaine about you, about what you've said. I'm trying to think of some of the others. This was not a regular shed day. Somehow or other, some of these people. Yeah, I do know now. One of them's a carer for somebody that they come accompanied, sheltered housing.
Yeah.
And the guy that's standing up is an ex-scout, but an electrician. The only trouble is he hasn't got his certificate. So he gave us advice, and we put lots of extra plug points. This stage had about 2 plug points.
Cool.
So we wired it up. He kept an eye on it and kept us on the straight and narrow.
Great. Yeah, we've had a huge amount of help from a local electrical firm.
Yep.
They've advised and shown us what we need to do, and then to a greater or lesser extent, let us get on with it.
Yeah.
Then come back, check the work, and then do the commissioning and the testing.
And that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened in Staithes, and exactly what happened in Robin Hood's Bay. We found 2 different contractors locally, and they came in, and were very happy that we did it, but they wanted to make sure we did it safely.
Of course.
So
Absolutely.
good community.
Yeah,
work.
absolutely. More of similar, I assume.
Yeah, that's Whitby. So you get some idea there. There's the doors on the right-hand side, but you see the form of heating there is the infrared stuff. There is heating in the building, but if you want radiators on here, you heat the whole of the huge hall next door. So we need to keep costs down. So we go for these radiant fires because we didn't know. And it was early days. I didn't want to presume we could just mount these on walls. So I got them on sticks. Now we wouldn't bother with that. We'd put them on the walls. But, we didn't want to presume on them till they trusted us.
Get your feet under the carpet first.
Yeah. This is very interesting. For me, it's very memorable. The man on the left, with his back to you, is an ex-farmer. Dennis, he actually is in a care home now. And he came to us from the care home. And he has been with us for probably 2 or 3 years. Dementia. The other guy is not coming to the shed now because, again, he needs more care. Yeah. But the 2 of them, we're not really interested in doing normal shed work. We used to force them to. It's probably not allowed, but we used to make them hold things for us. It was good for them. Now they enjoyed that in a sense, but their love was dominoes. Great. And they would come alive, and they knew exactly how many, what had been laid and how many 6s were left, and so they wiped the floor with people like me.
Sure.
So again, and the good thing is, you can see the rough size of the place. You might, it's probably 4 times that size of what you can see there. So it's small. Gotcha. Plus a premises over the road that we use on an estate. But the woman there playing dominoes with them would bring another man with her, Michael, who wasn't that old, but he could have been subject to anything sort of happening to him, but he could work on his own as long as other people were around. So we used to work with him. He used to work with others, and she was there in case anything happened. But she filled her time in by playing dominoes, which was great for us because we didn't really want to play dominoes.
Well, there's a nice lesson in that, and you've already said it, but it's worth underscoring that the shed can be all things to all people. Yes. They don't want to come and do this, but actually there's no limit as to what you want to do, really. And in this case, it's just playing dominoes that is fulfilling, and that's great. Yeah, come do it, be part of the banter, drink the tea. You're just part of that community and away from watching daytime television, which just is good. Good stuff. Guy making sawdust?
Well, the one on the right is Keith. Keith came to our shed, skilled wood turner. He came just to give us 2 or 3 weeks worth of training, Yeah. The fact is he's still there. But he doesn't attend. He doesn't attend the shed because he needs it. You understand? He attends it because he's helping to train us. Now, his wife says that he loves it, and he does.
Good.
The other one is Irish. Apologise for that. No, that's Eddie. That's our Eddie. A lovely guy. And Eddie took up the lathe. He then bought his own lathe at home, and
slippery slope.
He's made some nice stuff.
Yeah. Great. Very cool.
They want to get back to the shed. Oh, that's the man. That's the other guy that makes sticks, and this is the top. And you look at that; it's all the feathers, just carved. It's brilliant.
And absolutely brilliant. You're on the coast to coast walk, so that's a ready-made market for you.
Well, we don't sell them from there, but Bob actually makes lots of sticks.
Yeah.
We have made them for people, but we don't actually make the point. I mean, if they're on the coast to coast, they don't really want to carry another stick with them. And if they're going back to Australia, you can't take wood back.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, you got to be careful what you take in. But Bob actually sells a lot of them through various butcher's shops, I think it is, like that, in the region.
Okay.
So we're closed down at the moment, but he makes them by the dozen. This is one of the smiling faces. This is the wife of one of our shedders, Brian, in Staithes. Brian, I don't know that we've got a picture. Most of these pictures actually are quite old. Okay. So these go back probably a couple of years. But you can see the sort of thing they were making. Poppies and things like that became a craze. I'm not sure. They might be crocheted or knitted or something. I can't remember.
Sort of rag type, tied rag sort of thing.
Yeah, well, that could have been it. Yes. Rag rugs is big up here, and we did rag rugging.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
So that's probably it.
This looks important.
Yes, that's Brian. Now, this is in Whitby, but Brian is a guy on the left, and Brian effectively runs the Staithes shed with me. We support each other, and he's really good company. So that's the husband of the lady you saw in the last shot. The man with his back to you, it's probably as well you can't see his face, is Lance. Lance is a wonderful guy. I won't go into his story because you won't have time, but just to say that the man has amazing talents in many, many areas, but because of a brain operation 10 or 12 years ago, which affected his, his sort of mental health, affected the way he was, and he's on drugs of different sorts all the time, legal ones. This man is amazing, and he will do almost anything. So he goes to the women's shed and does lathe work with any of them that want to. And by the way, in the women's shed, we've got a sister. We've got not a convent. It's a priory in Whitby, and the sisters there that would go around normally wearing grey dresses, grey frocks, and one of those, Hannah, comes when she can. She's in charge of hospitality, and she did a wonderful Christmas meal for us just before Christmas. So we get all sorts coming to the shed.
Yeah, super.
Yeah,
nice.
Some of them are normal.
Now this is the health and safety poster.
Yeah. Wow. This is what happens when you let women into sheds. You see, they don't listen. They just don't listen. In the back is Angela. She came from. She came to us and needed keeping an eye on. Let's put it that way. Okay. She'd held very responsible roles in the past, and so we wanted to help. She's no longer in the area, but it's good to have people that you can help.
Excellent.
I think she might have reduced it to 2 fingers in the end, by the way.
Oh dear.
Well, that's the other lady actually, and her father. She wasn't married. Her father had been in the RAF, and he did lots of mechanical work, cars, all that sort of thing. And she would join in with him.
Great.
And so she enjoyed using tools again.
Lovely. Yeah, it's something that gets missed in schools very often. I think it might be changing now, but they...
No, that's why, again, I'll just chuck in that we do stuff here with kids now, workshops, and I've got a youth shed in Slights now, which is closed down. But so doing stuff with kids is vital. This is Eddie the Sheddy. I think he's growing a beard, which is probably why I took the photo, to be honest. This is Elaine, the lady that I spoke to you about, who was isolated. Elaine blossomed, and she joined up with Charlotte, who was by the steps, building the steps, and we did this community allotment sign was done. And Elaine worked with Charlotte to try and get that allotment going. Very difficult site. It was all overgrown, and you're working on a cliff, so
tricky.
Tricky. But these we made. One of our shedders, Roger, who works with me in Littlebeck, and he made these, and we sold them at what they call the Festival of Thrift, which is an annual festival in Redcar. That's even further away than Staithes. And the Festival of Thrift is held in a town, small town, small area, but quite a big event with lots and lots of stalls there. And the Men's Shed movement had a stall there over 3 or 4 years. Yeah. And it might this year be online. And I'm talking with Kate Morgan tomorrow about this.
Great.
So we're learning. We might rope Guernsey in. You never know. We'll just we'll just put a sign that says Scarborough over the front of it. But we did these trains, and the wonderful thing was delivering those to families. They were made for kids. Lovely. And because they weren't all made, we had to deliver them just before Christmas.
Okay.
This was the man that the other lady playing dominoes. This is the guy that she would keep an eye on. We sort of had a commission to make a stable scene. We'd seen pictures of them online, and they were sold out of, I think it was the States, or it might have been Canada, but you couldn't get them here. So I just looked at it.
Great.
Got a bit of tracing paper, and we made 6 or 7 of these. And one of them went down to Cambridge, and she so liked it. The next year, she wanted 3 wise men. So we ended up making 3 wise men as well.
3 wise men in your shed?
Well, we first of all, by the way, the Bible doesn't say there were 3. They just brought 3 gifts. That's true. So there might have been a whole rugby scrum.
It could have been another couple that came along.
Yeah. But notice it wasn't wise women. You do notice that.
Oh dear.
No comment.
Careful.
I love our shedders.
Love it.
Yeah. So that was at a Methodist chapel in Slights, actually put up there.
Now comment on this. I think this guy needs to know that there are probably better ways of getting a vasectomy sorted out than doing it yourself. Yeah.
Well, spot the hazards. It's funny because he was doing this, and
it looks a bit risky.
And later on that day, his voice went up a bit. Yes, he's never been the same since.
Cracking.
Bro, we've got some of the lovely stories that you guys will already know. People branch out. I mean, Brian has got some allotments that he's running, some schemes that aren't strictly speaking the shed. This guy came, fairly lonely guy in a way, and spent his time doing this sort of thing. But then he took an interest in writing, because I'd write things for the local newspaper and things like that. And Brian would read them. and say, it's good. I wish I could do that sort of thing. I said, you could do it. And I introduced him to one of our other shedders, Roger, the one that made the trains, the little models. And he took up, Roger was a poet. And so Brian took up poetry, and he writes some very good stuff. And both of them are in local clubs for poets, you know. I think it's Dead Poets Society branch or something like that.
Fair enough. That's great. Excellent.
This is our Betty. She's lovely. She's at the back of she's the one with 3 fingers. She has got immediately behind the Scout Hall, there is a cottage which is basically landlocked. This is behind the Whitby Scout Hall. And she lives there. And she was one of those who came down to the shed when we started the women's shed. And she's got so much from it because she's got companionship. Now, again, you would not think she lost her husband a few years ago, and you think, she's coping well, she's all right. Daughter comes, that sort of thing. But actually, people need the sort of company that sheds provide. And that's men and women need it. So Betty's there. Because she lives there, she keeps an eye out if necessary. Very useful to have a caretaker.
Oh, yeah.
And wonderful Betty.
Lovely.
This is our wonderful photo. This has been in the Yorkshire Post and other newspapers. It's our icon photograph. This is Littlebeck. This is the Methodist Chapel one. And you can see we made Sam's shed, Slights Area Men's Shed sign. 2 of those sheep, when we were making the nativity scene. So that's two pinched sheep. And then there's Bob with a walking stick. Roger is the one that made the trains. And then Malcolm, who is the one that doesn't come to the shed now. And he had dementia. And it's such a lovely photo. Along came the Yorkshire Post, and they wanted a photo. I wasn't there even, and they took this wonderful picture. And that's been almost a great big spread in the newspaper once or twice. So, yeah.
Yeah, really lovely.
And that's the coast to coast. This is Lance, lecturer. This is a very, very, very early one at the very beginning of the women's shed. So I don't know what. Oh, are they doing? Yeah, they're doing carving, aren't they? Carving. Yeah, with the flexi tools. Yeah,
making
wood carvings. Yeah, just making a mess, I think. But Lance must have been trying to give some advice. Yeah, this actually. I'm just trying to think who it is. This is actually a couple of. I think this was a couple of walkers sitting at the table. This is right next to the chapel in Littlebeck, and there were a couple of the coast to coasters, and then 2 of our shedders. I think must have been talking to them, telling them how much they appreciate the walkers coming through and giving us money and things like that.
In no uncertain terms.
This is, you see, this is the guy that's not coming anymore.
Okay.
But you see, even he would have a go at doing this sort of thing.
That's
and
great.
Would keep him occupied. It wasn't what he did most of the time. He wanted to do dominoes weren't there first of all, you see.
Yeah.
But they were just introduced one day, and they suddenly realised that these 2 wanted to play dominoes, and it kept them quiet. It's the equivalent of sort of game you give kids, you know, give them dominoes. A wonderful man. Well, we often try to get in. Well, we get in the local paper, the local Whitby Gazette, part of the Johnson Group. They've been very supportive to the sheds and other local projects, you know, voluntary sector, always willing to put stuff in. And so there we are, set for July launch. So that would easily be 3 years ago. It was 3 years ago in July. This lady has relatively recently died, but she's an interesting case. We made this bird house for her. almost the same as one she had. She wanted it in the same style. She lost her husband quite a few years ago, lived on her own, but she knew exactly what sheds were about. She was 90, exactly what sheds were about, because her husband would be up at the road that runs alongside them. He had a garage that immediately opened onto the road with virtually no pavement. He had a pit for doing car maintenance. So he would do car maintenance. And whenever she looked out, he was there talking to people walking past, you know. So she knew what a shed was for, that it wasn't just work. Lovely, lovely lady. And sadly, it was about 3 weeks before I discovered that she died, because with COVID, it wasn't COVID, as far as I'm aware. But it was a shame not to. It was largely unmarked because she couldn't have anybody at services, that sort of thing. And I found out I Googled her. Huh?
That's one of the most sad aspects of the whole.
Well, I actually found on the Gazette site, done in conjunction with at least one, probably more than one, of the funeral undertakers, was like an equivalent of a guest book. And I realised she was on there mentioned, but with no entry. So I wrote an entry because she helped us in the old people's work. She was always somebody. She would do things. She did rag rugging. She did rag rugging the whole of her hall all the way up the stairs. But it wasn't rags. It was actually nylon stockings. You know, something like that. It was incredible. Lovely. What skills some of these people have. Yeah. So old people, I need to tell you this, Marcel, old people have got something in them. You young upstarts.
Mercury or something.
Yeah. Yes.
Sucking too many thermometers.
Yeah. This is Dave. This is actually an interesting one. This is Dave in the Little Big Shed, but this is not the shed that you saw earlier where they were playing dominoes. This is a shed across the road on an estate. And this particular building, this is the basement of it, was used by a woodcarver called Whitaker, Thomas Whitaker. Whitaker's emblem, which he would carve on anything, was a gnome. So he was known as the Gnome Man. And in that chapel, there's a Last Supper carving, big one. And there's the gnome. But you often see gates and things like that with the gnome emblem. And, it's his. Just like Mousy Thompson, the little mice. So Dave's in this workshop. And to think that we're using a place that would have been used by Whitaker.
Lovely.
Wonderful. In fact, we inherited some of Whitaker's wood that was still there.
Wow. Very special. Nice bit of history.
Yep.
Now you've got my attention.
No, this looks good.
Yeah, this almost certainly, I would think, in the context of it, because it was a Methodist church, this one, when we got round, well, it could even have been the 1st May. We started in the March, formally opened. And come May, it's Christian Aid Week, which was, I think, last week. And what we did was a sausage sizzle. And there were walkers coming down and joining in. And we had tables out and chairs out. And I've got an Australian sail, these triangular sails, like canvas sheets. Yeah. We had that up, which I quite like. I like those sort of things. So we made it, you come into this little place with a ford and a stream, and you don't expect a shed there. You don't expect people to be there. so yeah, I think that's it. This actually, this is in the Little Beck Shed. But this guy was from Scarborough, minister from there, from a Methodist church there, and he was coming over because he wanted to start a shed there.
Great.
He's no longer in this area. But and he, of course, was intrigued to make walking sticks. So he started making walking sticks under Bob's tuition.
Mm-hmm.
But so he could be equipped to do some stuff with guys.
Excellent.
Ah, yes.
Dandy.
You found it.
Yeah, lovely.
Yeah. That was something Dave, who was over the road there, in the little workshop over the road, he'd made 2 or 3 of these in the past, and he said, "Let's make one of those." And this was the first group project. It could be made in pieces in different places. Could do it outside, and then we, of course, assembled it and we put decorations. I managed to get lights and all that sort of stuff. Far superior to anything else I've seen. Marcella's got a wonderful one that's been made in their shed, and it's lovely. We don't have this. We gave it away eventually to Mind, Scarborough, the Mind organisation.
So what Graham's alluding to there is the fact that we in Guernsey have a men's shed outreach project, and that's serving guys who can't necessarily get to the main shed, the shed quarters, if you will. And one of the projects that we've done there has been a traditional market barrow, and I'm keeping my powder dry on that front because I want to do a whole show with some of those shedders, and we can talk about some of the projects that we've been doing there.
What's unique, by the way, all of this collapses, and you see the the oscillations,
Yep.
up and down, top and bottom. They fit together. So you make a box with straps. So the whole thing is compact and can be taken somewhere. And the wheels go on. I wouldn't like to wheel it far, but they go on with a split pin or something, That was the idea of it. It could be stored.
Great idea. Good job. I'm going to have to whiz through some of these because
just do that.
Shall we? I'll just skip. If there's anything that makes you go, "Ooh," because
this is the other guy this is the guy that makes the beautiful heads and dogs and goodness knows what else. But I couldn't resist this one. He looks like a judge, doesn't he?
He does look like he's
I like to make people look foolish. Is an ambition of mine. And this is what Maggie, the German lady, did when she came to her shed. She wanted to. I think she'd made this sort of thing in Germany, and so we ended up making these log Father Christmases.
Great fun.
So she got us to cut the logs. This man, again, came to our shed, would never talk much, went home, didn't talk to his wife. Sadly, after about 5 months, he died. But again, another one of these figures that you could say he was a nuisance. Yeah, if you want to say somebody gets in the way. He didn't get in the way, but we would often have to pick him up and things like that. But, having that sort of person so adds to a shed. So, the shed adopted him. And he would tell walkers that came in, we would get him talking. He claimed to have been a market trader, actually, selling fruit. And he'd say things like, "Come on, madam, I'll hold the baby. You just fill your bags." Whether that was true or not, I do not know. But we made friends with his wife, and his wife was so pleased that we were able to help. So, lots of stories. Yeah. Just zoom through the rest. This is Roger. The no through road sign was stolen last year. Yeah. Been there for donkey's years. Somebody decided to steal it.
There's always one, eh?
Yeah. Carry on. Somebody from Guernsey, I think. That's it.
That's the last one. However, what we've got is a few comments. I've not been watching the comments, but a few comments to just catch up on. Dan says, Robin Hood Roundabout is near Richmond Park, if that helps. Otherwise, around Sherwood Forest, Nottingham, if true, yes. Robin was a man, by the way, and a very clever shedder too, because he made Marion.
Hey. Oh, very good, very good.
Dear.
Now, Jeff is a big shed supporter here in Guernsey. He said, "It's my end of the world, this buddy. Uncle lived in States, brother in Saltburn, Parents in Redcar. Yeah, this is your stomping ground.
I'd be interested to know, Jeff, if anybody is still around there in the family, or whether we're talking about 30 years ago.
Cool, yeah. And believe it or not, family tree, I'm the fourth generation Captain Cook.
Yeah, Captain Cook.
Lad set off from
Indeed.
Yeah.
Well, what do you know?
Yeah.
Well, make it up as he goes along, I'm sure.
That's true. That's true.
Typical man feeling crook but still smiling. I think that's a reference to.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It's appalling. This.
I know. I'm going to block him.
Is he in the south? Did you say? Whereabouts is he?
Yeah, in that bit. Yeah. Oh, don't ask me, because he told me last week what his town name. Oh, crumbs! He's going to shoot me now, because I had to ask him the other week. Oh,
is he the Dan that sometimes appears on the UK show?
On the radio show? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, right, okay. I know who it is. I've never seen his face, of course, because it's only voice.
Yeah.
So, but I now know who it is.
Jeff says also, best weekends of my life with my scout group, staying at Kettleness Old Railway Station.
Right. Yep.
Oh, that sounds grand. And
you must come and visit us, Jeff.
If there's any scouty types, well, you're one on the exec board, Graham. If there's any more scouty types,
it's only this local thing. I'm not national.
Jeff. Thanks for chipping in, Jeff. Lovely.
Yeah.
Now.
Good.
I've got an unstable connection. I don't know what's happened. JP, I might need your help. Okay. Something's gone wrong. I don't know if I'm still transmitting, but I've lost the other boys.
You are. We can hear you.
I'm going to join
you, but your picture isn't moving.
Yeah. No, I think has he died, Brian?
I don't know. It's
what's going on?
And,
it's a change of scene.
Pictures.
Headphones.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that. Look, my computer's just died and chucked me off. So I don't know what happened to my computer there. However, now is a good time. We're running way over time. No, we're not. We don't have to keep to time. But my bladder is saying that we're over time. So we're going to take a short 5-minute break for 5 to 10 or 15 minutes. See you back here in half an hour. Just switching over, and we're going to run up our go to the loo tea and wee break. We're going to put the kettle on and go grab yourself a fresh cup of tea or whatever it is you're drinking. Brian's going to go and find an interesting mug to share with us. And after the break, we have got a pre-recorded interview that was recorded last night with Len in Australia, in Sale on the Gold Coast.
No, he's
very excited.
No, it's Labrador Shed.
It's the Labrador Shed. I thought he
Labrador Shed. No. We'll sort this out when you come back. I'll give you the geography. It's a big place, is Australia. It's bigger than Guernsey.
Only a little bit. Excellent. Right, go and put kettle on, have a wee, and recharge yourself. I'll see you back in 5 minutes. Bye.
Okay.
We've got a message from an anonymous Facebook user. Well done, boys. Someone's still here. Well done, boys. From do you know how to pronounce that, fellas?
South Wales.
South Wales.
Carol.
Yeah. Carol. Okay, all right. Yeah, good. We'll take that on advice. But mystery Facebook user, if you click on, let me add this into the bottom. If you click on the link above or below, I'm not sure where it is, www.streamyard.com/Facebook, then you can allow this StreamYard thing to see your Facebook name and ID. It's not essential, but it's just nice to know, because then we can greet you by name and thank you. More personal, which is lovely. We've got another comment coming in. Yeah, thanks, Dan. Westbury.
Oh, Westbury.
Dan is in Westbury. It's in the south. It is, Graham. It's all just south, isn't it, Graham?
Well, that's where I came from. The south.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, whereabouts?
Well, our married life, 50 years this year, was in High Wycombe, Buckinghamshire. But I was born in central London. I'm a Cockney.
Oh, right.
Born in Barts Hospital. I'm not wearing my formal dress, you understand?
You're full pearly. Oh, this I've got to see. And Dan also chips in. We haven't put him off too much. He says, nice one, gents. We'll have to try harder. Great. Now, I posed the question earlier. What are you hankering to get back to the shed for? And nobody, apart from gents on screen here, thank you, Brian and Graham, nobody's chipped in on that front. So a nudge to everybody who's watching. What are you hankering to get back to the shed for? It might be, as Brian said, it's the banter and the community and the cake. And as Graham said, it's the community. For other people, it won't be the... Sorry, I'm just... Is anybody going to be brave enough to say, well, I'm going back for the lathe? Oh, no, I'm going back for the people, really.
I'm going back to get away from my wife.
Nice. Yeah, great. And she's glad you're going.
Yes.
She can't wait for the shed to open. Now, we have got something a little bit special. In a way, it's not special because it's just another shedder, just like any one of us. But it is a little bit special because he's in Australia and we've never ventured that far before. So this is our most long distance hookup yet. And I put him on our Dewberry as Les on our menu of, but it's actually Len because I'm a Muppet. So sorry, Len. Les, I think Les was, we end up talking about this as being sheds as being one of the best ever Australian exports. I must have been thinking of Les Patterson. and Dame Edna. Oh dear. I did think perhaps I should have my wide brimmed sun hat with the corks, but I tried to avoid that because that's just like, that's probably racist, isn't it? It's just
probably, but don't worry.
Yeah, weather. Now I'm going to do this, and my apologies, Brian, because I'm going to obliterate you just for a moment. This is where our dear Len is. So we're zooming out from England now, and then we're going to skip round the old golf ball in the sky, and there we are going down to Australia, and we are heading down bottom right hand corner.
No, that's not where he is.
Oh, heck.
That's where my son lives. And Sale was the first shed that I ever saw. But if you keep going east and up the coast,
okay,
you have to zoom out a little bit.
To the left, keep up, and it's up there, Brisbane.
What would be good at this point? Oh, up near Brisbane, yeah. Oh, what a muppet, eh?
Well, you know, I mean, it's. I wouldn't go there if I were you.
Well, I wouldn't know how to. Right. Okay. So look, this is about. This is 36 minutes. This was recorded last night with Graham and myself meeting up with Len Thompson from a Labrador shed somewhere near Brizzy, east coast of Australia, and we had to do this. He would have come on live, but being that we start the SHEDcast at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, plus 9 hours means it will be a midnight start for him. And we've been at it for a little while now, and he'd have fallen asleep by now. So it was wise for us to hook up with him last night. We hopped on, Graham and myself, at 9 p.m. and this was 6 a.m. for Len. And it was all pretty last minute. Graham made the
He only had 10 minutes notice.
Good morning, and you're live.
No, yes.
So bless him. It was absolutely wonderful that we could even do it. And I'm blown away by the technology to allow this to happen. But forgive me that this is a play-in of a pre-recorded, but I'm sure you appreciate and understand absolutely why we're having to play in a pre-recorded jobby. So when I click this button, I think the three of us should get kicked out, and we'll leave it to Graham and myself diving in with Len, and we'll see you back here in 36 Earth minutes, I think.
Okay, good.
Here we go. I'll press play, shall I?
Well, you have to stop meeting like this, Graham.
Yeah, we're squeezed up, yes.
Joan and Roz will start talking about it.
That's better. That's better.
I can do that.
Yeah.
Or I can do that. At least like that, you can see the pimples on our noses.
However you want to roll. Marcel,
Let's switch places.
what is the demographic? What's the age group of your shed?
We're primarily focused on retirees, but we're not exclusive age range because we're quite excited about the all-age potential.
Yep.
There's a lot of young men, whether they are just sort of missing a father figure for whatever reason, and probationers or something who've lost their way, who need those kind of older role models, and the upskilling that can come from that, coupled with middle-aged guys who are a big problem for, deep depression, mental health issues.
Absolutely.
So it's important for us to hit everyone if we can.
Right.
And what's it like for you?
Very much the same. Obviously, we by default we're more focused on post-retirement. However, we're open to all age, nominally 18 through to when you pass away. But we can even arrange the box on the way out. But 12, we don't like to see kids much under 12 into sheds because of all sorts of insurance issues and working with children and that sort of thing. So primarily, you would say that the sheds in Australia would all focus around the post-retirement group, because post-retirement is another one of those periods when we move into a high-risk self-harm suicide age group.
Yeah.
The younger age group in the sort of up to age 25, and then you move out into when you go into the high sort of family concentration of high mortgage, ensuring a job, keeping the family alive. The pressures there can get very great around that sort of 38, 40 age group. And then, of course, when retirement comes, because all of a sudden you find yourself out in a whole new world of isolation, potentially. So that's where the sheds evolved initially here in Australia.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by the story coming from Australia that it was all very organic in the beginning. That it was recognised that shedding was just happening.
It was. It really only it had been happening quite some time. I think the earliest record of shedding in Australia, as we perhaps know it today, was back in the late 80s, I think, early 90s. And as you say, it was quite organic. It became formalised at around about 2005, when there was a recognition. A fellow Yorkshireman, Graham, fellow Yorkshireman, Ted Donnelly, got the idea that sheds could be something a little bit more than what they were, and brought the whole movement together. He's considered to be the grandfather of shedding here in Australia. 2005, I think the date is right. They decided to bring the sheds together, and they held a conference.
Mm-hmm.
And out of that was born the Australian Men's Shed Association, and it's just become grown more formally since then. But it's still very much an organic thing, because a shed can start tomorrow anywhere.
Mm. I understand you've got something over 1,000 sheds in Australia now.
Well over.
Which sounds like a lot, but I don't understand. You're a bit of a bigger island than we're on.
Marginally.
Yeah. There's a running joke. There's an old joke that says, "How do you spot the Guernseyman in Australia? He's the only one who goes for a drive round the island on a Sunday afternoon."
That's not so silly. We had friends come over from Holland many years ago, and they arrived, and we sent them off for a bit of a sleep to catch up, and said to them, "What do you want to do when you're here in Australia?" And they said, we want to see as much of the country as we can." They had 2 weeks. So while I got a map of Australia and superimposed to the same scale a map of Holland. And when they woke up, they understood the lunacy of what they were suggesting, or the way they misunderstood the magnitude of the country. So yeah, there's well over 1,000 sheds. We've got about 1,100 plus sheds that are actually registered AMSA, Australian Men's Shed Association sheds. There are quite a number of sheds that are not registered through the association. So it's a bit hard to pin the number, but somewhere around possibly 1,500 to 2,000 in total.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
It sounds like a lot, but you're a big country. How does that equate in terms of penetration? How common is it to find a shed or many sheds in towns?
You would probably find a bit like pubs. You won't go to a town, certainly rural areas, where you won't find a shed. And it doesn't matter the size of the shed, but it's generally caught on where the we thought some time ago, a few years back, where we might have reached saturation point. But the new sheds still keep popping up. But so long as you have a population and the resources to be able to sustain a shed, they tend to pop up. So yes, driving around the country, you wouldn't have to go very far before you would find a shed.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, much more concentrated, of course, in the urban areas, because simply the population and the resources.
Yeah.
But like you guys over there, and Graham has raised this a number of times, one of the biggest difficulties is finding somewhere to have a shed, so land or a building, and then getting support of your local council. The majority of sheds that I said at the outset are on council property. Yeah. So you need to have council on side, and then of course there's the financial resourcing, because it's not cheap to run a shed, because you have equipment to buy, you've got services to maintain, and you've got insurances to pay, etc. So we face the same difficulties as you guys over there, but probably we're a little bit better equipped.
Yeah, I gather that the Australian authorities are much more on side, because it's had many more years than we've had over here.
Yeah. Well, very much so, and the shed movement is funded by the Australian federal government through the Department of Health. So the Australian Men's Shed gets a budget every year from the Department of Health. We've obviously got to apply for that every 3 years. Mm-hmm. and that goes very much towards it. Helps fund the office in Newcastle. And it's not a big office. We have 5 employees to service the entire country. But it goes in the form of grants. So every year we run about four rounds of grants where sheds can apply to the fund for specific items, and we might have a focus on health. We might have a focus on developing some more equipment, developing programs, that sort of thing. So,
Gotcha.
so look, I often say to people, I said to Graham just yesterday, I think it was yesterday, Graham, we spoke?
I think it probably was yesterday.
Last night, your time?
Depends which day yesterday was. There or here.
Men's Sheds has a brand that most companies would envy.
Yeah.
It is probably, I do quite a lot of talking about sheds, people wanting to start sheds, people wanting to know what sheds are all about. And I always say that Men's Sheds is one of the easiest brands in the country to sell. So,
That's really cool.
Well, I always say, Len, don't I, that sheds is the best export that you've given the world. You've given the UK. Better than your beer.
We only export Foster's to you, and that is crap beer.
They manufacture the stuff here, I think.
Sure.
Doesn't help.
So that's sort of the way it works out here. The sheds obviously are bigger than what you have over there, but that of course varies. It only takes 2 men to make a shed. But our shed, we've got about 140 members currently, so it's a big shed. However, that pales into insignificance when you go up to Brisbane, and there's a shed up there with just over 300 members.
Wow.
I would not like that shed because it'd be like running a business. The administration side of that would be just enormous, so to try and stay away from that.
Yeah, there's something really lovely about a gang of men that you know everybody and you've got connection to everyone.
Absolutely.
Really lovely.
It's interesting, just even our shed, 140 people, we meet 6 days a week. So we're a busy shed, probably one of the busiest sheds certainly on the Gold Coast. Not all sheds, the majority of sheds meet maybe 3 days a week, some as few as 1. But I tasked our committee plus a couple of the members to break the membership up into a list of names and gave them the telephone numbers, and they ring everybody on a weekly, fortnightly basis through this whole lockdown situation. And one of the guys said to me yesterday, he said, Len, I'm speaking to people I don't even know.
Yeah.
So it's been a good exercise as far as that's concerned, because he's getting, this is a guy, I chose him because he lost his wife about 2 years ago, and he's on his own. His family's in Melbourne, so a long way away, and he's on his own. It's a way of him keeping contact with the outside world.
Yeah, forces the issue, doesn't it? It compels them to engage.
Correct.
That's great.
Yeah.
Every shed that I talk to in the UK has got a certain flavour that is in part based on their locality and in part based on their premises, but primarily based on the members. What's the vibe of your shed? What's its flavour? What makes your shed your shed? Your shed's unique, you know?
In any shed, it's the men that make the shed. Absolutely. The flavour of our shed, when we're interviewing new members, the first thing we say to you is you must have a very thick skin, because you'll walk into the shed on day one and you'll wonder, what in the hell have I walked into? Because everybody is having a go at everybody else. And it's loud, and it's crude sometimes, but it's just a lively, fun shed. I think Graham has been there, and I think Graham would vouch for that. That the vibe is about having enjoying time there. If you're not enjoying the time in the shed, you shouldn't be there.
Yeah,
Len,
sure.
just tell the story of the blind man.
Oh, Des. Des has unfortunately left us now because he's deteriorated physically to the point where he no longer comes, Graham. But Des was legally blind, and he used to come to the shed, and his background was boat building, and all he wanted to do was build boats. So he got with one of the other guys, and that guy became his hands, and Des had the brains and this is how we want to do it. We do this, we do that. And between them, they built the most beautiful clinker-style boats, the beautiful staggered paneling down the side, absolutely magnificent. And Des was blind, so he used to build these boats, and we would sell them and raise funds for the shed. But he was he just fitted in. There was no sort of we made sure we built ourselves around him in terms of step out of his way if he was walking towards you. Make sure there were no trip hazards for him. But no, he was very amazingly talented, and I think Graham, you saw one of the boats that he had.
All manners of things, and he was such a gentleman, and he took a real interest. I mean, he had some good conversations the couple of times I was there.
He must have liked you because he wasn't exactly sometimes.
I remember the guy that used to swear though a lot. Our sheds are very polite.
Well, of course, you have women in your shed.
Oh yes.
We don't in Guernsey. We've taken the decision to make it gender specific for two primary reasons. One, there's a need for something that is men only over here. There's lots of things available for women. Added to the fact that men don't make those social connections as easily as women, and that's a generalization, of course. So we thought that was important. But also we are co-creating with a makerspace. I'm part of that. And the makerspace itself is gender neutral. So actually having an organization that is gender specific is not a worry to us, because if there's any women who want to come and play with all the tools, they can do that through makerspace. So we cater for everybody.
That echoes the majority of sheds here in Australia, gender specific, because of the recognition that men need that space. Yeah. And we have the debate from time to time in our shed. It doesn't last very long, but it would completely destroy the fabric of the shed, because men can come, the guys can come in there, and I relate the story of we had a Japanese fellow, very talented guy, but he developed prostate cancer, and he became very withdrawn and wouldn't talk about it at all. One of the other guys who was going through the journey grabbed hold of Yoshi and had a chat to him, and Yoshi realised that he wasn't on his own. So then he was able to start talking quite freely about the journey, if you like. That could never happen if sitting next to him was a woman. And that's our approach to men. Need that space where men can be men. Yeah. So there are sheds here in Australia that are mixed, and it seems to work. But we're also seeing now a gradual growth of the women's sheds. So we now have the Australian Women's Shed Association, which is partnered with AMSA, of course. Yeah. And that that concept is starting to grow.
Great.
Because there are women there, and rightly so, that do want to be able to come in and learn how to use tools, make something, repair something at home. So society is quite different to what it was when I was growing up, in as much as the women are on their own, and they need some of the skills that was naturally assumed by men a couple of generations ago.
Yeah, very true.
Mm.
Yeah, I've often had to say to people, we're not anti-women, but it changes the dynamic.
It does.
In all sorts of ways. So it's really valuable to have that that boundary.
Yes, absolutely, and I have seen sheds here that have opened the doors for whatever reason, and they've come close to failing.
Oh, shame.
But anyhow, so look, we each have our place, and it works well the way it's working here.
Yeah, cool. So where do things lie in Australia at the moment? Obviously, it's been going 30-something years, something like that. You say there are sheds popping up, but what's the general vision for shedding in Australia now?
I think we recognise the fact that we will gradually start to plateau because there are just no more towns left to sort of build sheds. So I've seen a move more towards a much stronger emphasis on men's health. So the conferences we go to, the various sessions that AMSA puts on around the country. Once upon a time, they were focused on the hands-on, the woodwork type of activity, machines, different things you can do. The drift is now moving more towards health, men's health. So you go to any gathering that we might have, cluster gatherings of sheds, the national conference that we have, the majority of topics on the agenda, the majority of the what I call the trade display are all health focused.
That's interesting.
So I think that we are going to become a pseudo health organisation. Yeah,
fair enough. I see the two things sort of, if you talk the practical stuff and the human stuff, they go side by side. You almost don't want either way, one without the other.
Correct.
And very often I find that when I'm talking about sheds to people who've perhaps not come across them before, I'll modulate what I'm saying about sheds depending on who I'm talking to. If I'm talking to an old guy, I'm probably not going to be talking about, well, you can talk about your mental health, because then it's heckles up. I don't want to talk about that sort of stuff. But it's more about the tools and banter and cups of tea and bacon and butties. But when you're talking to people, possibly funders, but also a wide range of people, when you talk about the mental health and physical health impacts and what can come out of that, then that is what is the gold to them.
Yes.
I see that you don't ever have one without the other.
You don't. And I take the same approach when we're interviewing a new member. I always open up with a statement that men's sheds are primarily about men's health. Okay. End of story.
Enough said.
I then go on to say that we deal with it in a covert way. So the working with your hands, working alongside shoulder to shoulder with somebody is the carrier, but ultimately allows you then to talk, which then you potentially can open up about issues you might be dealing with. It might be something happening in the home. We've got guys that obviously have lost their partners. We've got guys that have lost children to suicide, and we don't deal with that in a professional sense. We do. I call it bloke psychology. We just try and prop them up and say, look, it's tough, but you've got to get a life, sort of thing. And just the shed is a means. When I found it 11 odd years ago, coming up to 12 years ago now, when I first found, I didn't know anything about men's sheds, and I read of one starting up here, and I'd just taken semi-retired. The company bought me a whole batch of Triton work centre and everything that goes with it as a retirement gift, and sat out in my shed, and I thought, what am I going to do with this?
Now what?
Where do I try and find out about how to use use all this equipment? And read a little thing in the paper about men's sheds, and there was one starting not very far from where I live. So I rang up about it, and they were in the stage you were in that 3-year period of trying to get one going, and it took them close on 5 years to get it going from the concept to the walking through the front door. And they were looking for a secretary, so I put my hand up for that, and that's what I've been ever since. And I still can't use all the crap in my shed.
What a waste of time that's been, mate.
I believe, Len, that you recently disposed of your lathe.
Yes, there was a smart move. A week before we went into lockdown, I decided to clear my shed of all the surplus equipment. So I sold my lathe and pedestal drill, and we're told we're locked down, we can't go to the shed. Ideal opportunity to learn how to use. I know how to use the lathe. I could have been making bowls, pens, you name it, to keep myself occupied. So
You fool.
Yes, sadly I'll wear the dunce's hat. But no, I find I'm keeping myself occupied. But and actually this is a very interesting period that we've gone through, where the men have been now deprived of the shed. And in my role as the state director, I get a lot of calls from from sheds within the state. And I had one just it started a week ago, and they are in a regional area, probably about 200 kilometres from where I am. They have not been affected by the virus. There is no, there's nothing out there in terms of the virus having spread, but they've been wrapped up in the whole shutdown based on the city environment. These people have just gone through the worst drought this country's ever seen, followed up by bushfires that destroyed homes, destroyed property, and now they're locked out of their shed. And they live they're isolated, so they don't necessarily have mobile phone connection. A lot of them are the age where they don't understand computers, so they don't have them. If they do have them, it's a very tenuous sort of signal. So their president got on the phone to me last week and started, what are you going to do about it? We've got to get this shed open. I had one of the guy's wives on my doorstep crying her eyes out because her husband was going spare. And, my hands are tied. So I said, look, all you can do is lobby your local member. I got another phone call yesterday, country area, similar situation. So it's said to me that the sheds really mean something in men's lives.
Yeah. Because
it's been now taken away from them, and some of them, even our guys, we're a city environment here. Even our guys are going spare. They just desperately want to get back to the shed. and we're trying. We try and sort of maintain, as I said, contact with them, but we can't go around and visit everybody, obviously. But it's just hit home to me the value of the sheds to the members.
The word lifeline springs to mind.
Correct. And we've been very conscious of that with a few of the guys. That one of the guys lost his partner 2 weeks into the lockdown. Normally, we'd give him a week or so to get over it. Sorry, pardon me, to take it all in and settle back. And then we'd encourage him to come back to the shed, even if it was just to come down and have a cup of coffee, but get him there to start easing the pain. But this guy has no family here. His partner's children are all overseas, except for one, which is local. So she's been able to come up occasionally to see him. So he's had to deal with this basically on his own.
That's rough.
It's rough. So all of these sorts of things say to me, sheds have a value in this world.
Yeah, for sure. Something I'm asking on today's SHEDcast is what is it that shedders are hankering to get back to? You've alluded to a great deal there, but for you personally, what are you? I'm guessing it might be the lathe. What are you hoping? What are you hankering for? What
Get away from his wife.
We've learned to cope, Graham.
All right.
I am hankering, and I think I could say this for each and every one of our guys. I am hankering for the mateship, to get back amongst our mates, to just engage in that. We're not going live at the moment, are we?
No, this will be recorded and then used on the show.
Isn't it, I hope? Because we just like to actually get down there and take the piss out of each other.
Yeah.
And that to me is what the shed is all about. We have one guy, Graham, met Ken. I think you might recall Ken, the big loud pommy, or wasn't he there? He might have been away. You might have been saved to the agony.
Well, I mean, most of them are rather strange, Len.
we have one guy there. He's the absolute heart and soul of the shed, and will give anything and do anything for the shed. He's a pom, but been here since the early '60s, I think. And but he is loud, and you can hear him coming from the other side of the car park. He's shed like a whirlwind, and you know that you are alive. And I miss that. I just miss Ken, shouting down one end of the shed to the other. You dickhead, what are you doing? So
it all adds to the atmosphere.
Absolutely,
it does. And then Marcel, the question is, I just want to get back where I can be with the guys and just having chewing the fat over a cup of coffee, solving the problems of the world. We'd have this coronavirus fixed if we were allowed back in our sheds.
Good point. Yeah.
Anyhow, so
Len, it's been an absolute delight to meet you and hear some of your stories and to glean from your experience. Thank you, Graham, for introducing us and making this possible. Len, I wish you and all the men there a very happy recovery out of COVID. What's that called? Unlockdown, a lock up? I don't know what it's called.
Post-lockdown.
Post-lockdown, right. There's a name for it.
The other aspect, of course, is we are making history.
Yeah? In what aspect?
Well, we learnt at school about the Spanish flu back in the 1900s. 20 years from now, they'll be talking about the COVID-19 pandemic that hit the world. So we are making history as human beings right at the moment, because we're in my lifetime, yours, I'm sure, we're in uncharted territory.
Yeah,
So
true that.
it's very interesting. But the guys are not going to believe at 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock this morning, I've been talking to a gentleman over in Guernsey, and perhaps going to air at some time during the day. And so, thank you for the opportunity to talk a little bit about Australian shedding. And I did say to Graham when I went over there, when I walked into Littlebeck, I could have been in any shed in Australia.
That's magic.
It didn't matter the size of the shed, but the whole fabric of the shed were the guys inside it. And as I said, we did a bit of a talk of a group of the shedders there at one trip I was on. The shed is just the building that keeps the rain off the guys. The heart of the shed is the men.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we don't need the equipment. We don't really need the walls except to stay dry. So long as we can be there together and using the tools as a means to an end.
Yeah, I often term it as being a vehicle. It's a social project, and this is just a vehicle. A number of years ago, I was involved in a youth music project, and it was a youth project, and music was the vehicle. We could have been doing anything. In a way, it doesn't matter what you're doing, but that was the glue that held everyone together. It got you there, and through that came all the other life lessons.
Yeah. Well,
really valuable.
If we had another hour, I could tell you a whole lot more stories just about our shed. So multiply that by 1,000 plus, and there are 1,000 stories out there.
Oh, fantastic. So, Len, maybe we can do this again. I'd love to hear
you let me know, and I'm more than happy to do it. If you want me to stay up at midnight, I can struggle to do that occasionally.
But it starts at midnight, Len.
Yeah. Graham, thanks for the call this morning. This has been great. Gentlemen, have a great day. I wish Guernsey Shed well, and from the members of Labrador to the members of Guernsey, keep on shedding.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, cheers.
Godspeed.
See you, gentlemen. How do I get out of here?
I have to unmute our microphones. It doesn't automatically. Doesn't automatically do that. There we go. Duh. Wonderful.
Well, that was great, Marcel. That was fantastic. Thanks very much for doing that.
And for Andrew, down to Graham and Len. It was was a real privilege to be able to talk to him, and as I mentioned there, just gleaning from his experience. Mm-hmm. How long have you known him, Graham?
I've known Len. Where are we? Probably 4 years.
Okay.
It was probably the end of 2016, September 2016. We'd opened a shed in the March. We had the German lady come in the September. She was with us, and I met him and his wife by accident in a garden centre cafe where they'd actually stopped because they needed a toilet. And I thought there'd be a toilet in there because they were passing through to go down to York, having done a tour of the UK. And, well, that's how we met. And I'm not going into it now. This program's long enough. But we did actually go by accident on the same cruise from Sydney to San Francisco. And we gave a talk to some of the passengers. I mean, a very small number, not the whole auditorium. But we gave a talk about sheds.
Brilliant. Super. Nice one. It's weird how this world works and connections get made around the world. And
well, I need to say this to Brian. I think to say it publicly. It's been very, very good to meet. First of all, Rob. Rob has been a good guy in making the connections, and I'm very pleased to have learned about the shed and when I can travel. I suppose I could travel there, couldn't I? I'm allowed to go a day's journey.
Yes, no, you can get there easily.
But you wouldn't be there. But
well, we can arrange that.
We need to. We do need to keep linked up.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have thought of doing it over the distance of 60 miles or something, but actually, there's no reason we shouldn't.
Right.
So I think it's one of the things that tomorrow I'm sure we're going to touch on with Kate, because we do want to get sheds talking to each other and shedders talking to each other. It's not just the chairman and the leaders. It would be great to actually have ordinary shedders. I think I said to you yesterday, Brian, we should do shed tourism.
Yeah, exactly.
Be brilliant. We can do a tour, and all these people from Guernsey can come.
Yeah, we can bus you down here.
Yeah.
When we open our borders, of course.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, but it's been brilliant. I've got a lot of time, of course, for Frome. It's an important place for me, and Patrick Abrahams, who does this sort of thing down there for the UK Men's Shed. I think it's really drawn people together at a time when we needed to be drawn together.
Yeah, that's great. Now, you're talking Patrick Abrams, and whilst our video with Len was playing out, Patrick sent me an email.
Ah,
thank you, Patrick. And I've just got to do a bit of back-end jiggery pokery here and see if I can get this sorted out. But whilst that is sorting itself out, his question is, Marcel, this is from Patrick Abrams at Frome Shed. Here's a question for Graham. Ask him about Lungi Babas Mahesh. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right.
Oh, yes.
Babas Mahesh.
Yes. Well, I hope I'm right on this. I visited Frome. Frome is worth Googling all about Frome.
Yeah.
The Men's Shed, that's it.
Sorry, Brian. I'm doing it again.
All right.
Yes. I spent 2 or 3 days in Frome.
That doesn't work. No. Oh, trying to get rid of it. No, there we go. Okay. So is this Lungus Babas?
Well, I spent 3 days in Frome. It's a very special place. They have what they call the compassionate community. And just over a period of time, and the shed there was formative in this, I believe. Was a GP. Again, GPs have got a key role in actually in the health side. And a few years ago, a GP down there decided she could see the problems looming, the rationing of healthcare almost, because of and she started trying to involve the community in helping themselves, helping each other, and thereby helping the practice. The wonderful thing about it, they developed community champions sort of thing. It wasn't called that, but just in localities, 1,000 of them. But one of the things they achieved over 3 years was a reduction in ambulance trips, emergency ambulance trips to hospital in Frome.
Yeah.
The rest of the area, the rest of the region of which Frome is a part, it went up. So people were just being dealt with much, much earlier by simply volunteers in the community. This is powerful. Yeah. And I've been pressing it up here in North Yorkshire. Things are being done in different places. It's not the only place that has done that, but it becomes a determination to actually change a town.
Yeah.
And what I saw there took my mind. And I was on tour of different things. Patrick kept me running all the time. And that was a set of 3 former toilet cubicles. 3 or 4, I think it was 4 in a row. And one had a fridge, community fridge. The next one had a community larder, I think it was, where things like bread would go. The next one was community clothes. You could leave something there and pick something up there. And the fourth one was that guy.
That's quite right.
I just couldn't believe it. You know? Well, I don't know what led us to cuddle each other, but you know, I mean, if I was nearer to you, Marcel, I might do it to you as well.
Okay.
Oh, wonderful, Patrick.
Absolutely. I've mentioned it before, but Patrick brought Sheds to Guernsey 3.5 years ago, and it was part of a bit like a TEDx conference focused on health, and that community connectors type of model. And I'm trying to remember the region it came from. I think it's around Frome, that kind of area. But that model has been now employed in Guernsey. In fact, the woman who was at Patrick Abrams' talk, who kind of came alive to men's sheds back in the start for us, and then over the first couple of years was really actively involved in us building the team and getting us organized and heading in a straight line. She went on then to direct the charity that's now doing that, Health Connections Guernsey. And they are going from strength to strength. So, as you say, really powerful model. But as you also say, it takes a long time to turn something around. People are ingrained.
That was 6 years. Well, 3 years, and then they were seeing the results of it. The same thing has happened in Fleetwood over in Lancashire, I believe. And there's really no reason why it shouldn't happen in a region like this, in Whitby. I really believe that. But it does mean that
into Catherine's ballpark,
or even Charlotte's.
Yeah. Charlotte, I'll go with Charlotte.
It's not. I wouldn't have thought it was written into her remit, but knowing Charlotte and knowing her background, she will conscientiously do the job she's supposed to be doing. Yeah. But if she can do something that moves forward, working together, fabulous, she will do it. But I would say there are people in our county council, in particular, that I'm close to, and one or two others that support them, who are all the time trying to think, what can we do for this community? And this is pre-COVID. Yeah. Now they're all up to their necks in people volunteering to do this, that, and the other. But I think the way that the community has pulled together is nothing short of amazing in my lifetime.
Wonderful. Very witty comment I read the other day. Something along the lines of, not one person who answered the question 5 years ago, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Not one person would have got that right. No. We're all locked up in our houses, working from home, and isolated. We'd have had these grandiose ideas of, I'm going to be doing this, I'm going to be traveling the world, or CEO of my own corporation, or just sat in front of the telly.
But I come back again.
Weird.
This has brought the three of us and Len together.
Yep.
Which would not have happened without COVID. We've almost come to our senses. At the moment, with lockdown, we've had time to think and appreciate what we had. I don't think it's a time for going back to things being absolutely as they were. It's a time for saying, what do we want for our kids? I think the kids is something very much on my heart. I've had a fortunate life. I'm part of the golden generation, really. But I'm quite concerned for children and young people at the moment growing up. sheds should be an example to them, and I think they are. But we need to work with other organisations. That's my hope. I was in a Zoom meeting yesterday, just the first one that I was in, with several other charities, and I was pleased that that was the sort of the mood that people could have. It's so easy to get locked into your own work.
Yeah.
And especially when you're trying to get money, it's, and I think it's time we were very open towards each other, very open. So,
good words. Thank you. Any closing thoughts, Brian?
Well, it's been very interesting, and thank you very much for the invite to join in here. So, and if you ever want to come up to Northumberland, you're very welcome. Some beautiful beaches up here.
Love to.
And
one day.
Yeah.
Hopefully. All right. Graham, Brian, thank you ever so much, and Len. Or I'm sure we'll be watching this, while he's putting a few more shrimps on the barbie.
he's asleep at the moment, I'll tell you that.
Oh, you think of that lovely face all curled up on his pillow.
Yeah.
It's been an absolute joy. Thank you so much, and best regards to all of your sheds and shedders.
Could I just ask Marcel, if anybody wants to watch this, you say it's recorded on YouTube?
Yep.
And Facebook, is it?
Yep. It's on YouTube and on Facebook. But if I just pop up this link, because sometimes it's hard to find in other places. Take a look at sheds.gg. /SHEDcast.
Yeah.
But even if you forget the SHEDcast bit, there's a link on the front of the website, sheds.gg, and there's a link on there that says, have a look at our SHEDcast. And there's all now 10 of our previous shows.
Okay.
9 previous and now the 10th. So we're keeping a catalogue of them there. So that's the sort of easiest place to find them. And then that's just a YouTube link that you can then watch from there.
Right.
And Brian.
Yeah.
Kate Morgan, who you must meet. She's got all your photographs. I sent them to her. That Rob provided, and she was on the show last week, I believe. Is that right?
No, not last week.
Right.
A few weeks ago. Kate Gordon, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, you can see what she's like. She's good for the shed movement in the UK.
Yeah.
So I'm pleased that you're discovering that there's life outside of Northumbria.
Yes, I would know that.
And at least you know that Australia's a big place. The chap sitting next to you, on the left. We'll send him a map.
Did you notice before, while Len was doing his bit with us last night, I was putting up the pre-recorded last night bit, and then I also had a header that says where we're from. Yeah. And it's only where I chucked it up is like, oh yeah, no, I can't do that, can I?
But actually, it's good you've done that, because it doesn't matter. You know?
No, we're not the BBC.
It's just nice, isn't it, Brian, that we've not made a mistake, Well, we've not done anything
on this occasion. Yeah. Brilliant. Well, thanks very much once again and finally.
Yeah, brilliant.
Thank you.
Great to meet you both, and see you again. Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks, chaps. Cheerio.
Okay. Bye.